This is the latest project by writer, director and actor Emilio Estevez, and it's yet another one of these movies that's had a bit of a challenging release. It first hit festivals almost 2 years ago, and since then it's only really seen limited runs here and there. And I'm still not even sure if it's available in all regions. But I saw it and thought it deserved a review, so let's get into it, I guess. And well, the first thing that caught my attention about this was absolutely the cast. It's pretty impressive and includes people like Alec Baldwin, Taylor Schilling and Christian Slater, to name a few. And what I find fascinating about a movie like this is that no one's really talking about it. You'd think a high-profile cast and a crew like this would garner some attention, but no. Not in this saturated market where there's just too much content. But the lack of attention this thing's gotten doesn't necessarily reflect on the overall quality, because it's a fairly well-made movie, pretty solid all around. I mean, Emilio Estevez knows what he's doing behind the camera, and apparently he's a pretty decent writer too. And yeah, overall, I just thought this was a really solid movie. One that deals with a subject matter I haven't seen dealt with a lot before. And the story basically follows this librarian at the Cincinnati Public Library during a particularly brutal winter, which turns out to be quite a challenge for the homeless population. A group of people who often seek shelter in the comforts of the library during the day. But what happens when nighttime rolls around and they're sent back out into the streets? And what if all the shelters are already packed to the brim and the temperatures drop below zero? Are all these people just supposed to freeze to death? Or could this public library possibly offer shelter instead? That's the core question the movie asks, and it is an interesting question indeed. And that's basically the heart of the story here, but that's not all there is to it. Because there are actually quite a few different threads going on here. They do all sort of tie together and relate to the core concept and the idea. But there is a fair bit of complexity to the overall story structure and the characters. It's not as simple and straightforward as it might seem on the surface. There's quite a few layers to it and a fair bit of nuance too, which I appreciate. But I guess the main issue it deals with is this whole homelessness situation, which is very complicated to say the least and offers a lot of depth. Because it gets into the issues of substance abuse, mental illness and just plain bad luck. And how the system that's in place to deal with those issues often fails. And when that system fails, what happens then? What happens when people start freezing to death? Who's responsible and what can be done? And what should be done about it? Now that being said, I don't think the movie really offers any real answers or solutions. It basically just points at the problem and asks, what should we do about this? And I definitely don't have any answers either, but it's a very interesting subject and something worth thinking about. And something worth making a movie about too. I very much think this was worth the effort, but I also think it's a bit of a shame that it's not really getting very much attention. Not that I necessarily think a movie like this is gonna drive policy or change the world in any significant way, but it's nice to see that there are people out there making movies about subjects most people don't wanna touch. And quality movies at that, because a lot of the time, unfortunately, movies like this can feel a bit clunky. There can often be more heart and well-meant intentions than actual talent behind them. But that's not the case here. However, I also don't think it's a flawless movie. It did have some pacing issues, mainly in the middle. There's just a chunk where it sort of grinds to a halt and nothing's really happening. The story just reaches a plateau and it's not really moving forward all that much. So I definitely think it could have been trimmed down a bit and made tighter, but that's my only real complaint too. And well, it does get a little bit silly there toward the end. I didn't love some of the choices there, but at the same time it did end up being kind of endearing in a weird way too, so I didn't hate it. And that's really more of a nitpick than an actual issue too. But yeah, would I recommend this? Sure, why not? It's a pretty decent little movie, so maybe give it a look. Or don't. After all, I'm not your dad. But hey, what are your thoughts on this? Have you seen it? Did you like it? Let me know. And if you liked the video, maybe give it a thumbs up or sub to the channel, because that would be fantastic. And if you'd like, you can also support me on Patreon or PayPal through the links in the description. And as always, I appreciate you and thanks for watching.